what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy. You've seen the headlines coming out of Destin here early on about the 9-game schedule. So Ross Dellinger had a piece where I guess, Ross has his thumb on the pulse. It seems like Ross has and this is not me. I don't have this confirmed or anything, okay? This is me outside looking in, connecting the dots. Ross seems to have a very good relationship with Greg Sankey, right? And Ross is an incredible reporter. I've seen him firsthand when he was working here in Baton Rouge, and I've seen it now extended in national landscape. And one of the things about doing that job is you have to do that incredible tightrope act of like being objective, right? And criticizing and putting information out there that the people that you're talking about don't always want out there. But you also have to manage relationships, and you have to work your way so that these people trust you while knowing they can't trust you, if that makes sense, right? And I feel like Ross does an excellent job of that. And I feel like he has a very good in with the SEC and a lot of what's kind of going on. And so when he writes that there is a lot of movement towards an 8-game SEC schedule, at least for 2024, that the SEC is not actually now looking like it'll move to 9 conference games for 2024, there's a lot to unpack there. Because first off, look, there's the surface level. This is just incredibly stupid, right? It makes for a worse product. And we can get into the 8 versus 9 debate, right? And the reasons why 8 may be gaining steam. And it's partially because it doesn't look like ESPN wants to pay more money. It's also partially because some of the middle tier teams in the league want to keep that home gate of another home game. They want to stay bowl eligible. They don't want to risk, Ball State becoming an Alabama, right? And so all these reasons are valid. The reason why I bring up the relationship angle, though, boys, is because there is an element here of kind of like 4D chess public posturing, right? Where this feels to me, and maybe I'm wrong here, because we know, even though Greg Sankey's never said it explicitly, we pretty much can infer that he is an advocate of the 9-game schedule. And why wouldn't he be? Eventually it results in more money for everyone, and it's just a better product overall. So when Ross puts that out there, and I believe that information is provided by Sankey and his office, I think it tells me 2 things. First, I think it's kind of a public shot to start to get the public churning with exactly what we're doing. How the hell are we going to play 8 games? We want to play 9. We want more conference games. We want the 3 opponents. You want to play everybody every 2 years. 8 games is objectively, and I feel this in my bones, and that's why I'm using the word objectively. 9 games is objectively superior as a schedule than 8 conference games. It just is. The Big Ten already plays 9. The Pac-12 already plays 9. How is it not better to play, let's use somebody somewhat random, even a Mizzou. How's it not better to play Mizzou rather than McNeese? And I don't mean that in any sort of disrespectful way. It just is, as a viewer. Like, it's the older I get, the harder and harder it is to care about these win-to-win, these cupcake games, and I don't think I'm alone in that. So I think it's to get the public a little fired up when you float a story like this. And it also, which then applies pressure to those member institutions. And I also think it's a shot across ESPN's bow. Because as we said in all this, one of the reasons why the 9-game schedule is losing steam is that the SEC had a contract signed after they signed that new deal with ESPN, which was finally their big payday. Remember, Mike Slive, a long time ago, took less money than he knew what the SEC was worth from CBS to get that time slot, to get that Saturday 2:30, make it the big thing time slot. He sacrificed short-term money for long-term gain because brand awareness grew exponentially. It became the big deal, and all of a sudden the SEC was the premier league. The TV contract is not why, but it is a big piece in all of it. And so now that you've established a brand, well, you were finally getting the big payday from ESPN, and you got it. But then what happened? Texas and Oklahoma joined. And all of a sudden, that deal that you signed, while it is a big payday and while it was very lucrative, all of a sudden, it's a great deal for ESPN because you just added 2 of the biggest brands in the history of college football. Again, not hyperbole. And now you're saying, okay, and we want to add another conference game. So what's the SEC saying? Look, if we're giving you all this ESPN, let's just open back up the pocketbook, okay? Good faith negotiations, throw a little more money in the pot. ESPN appears to be saying no. And we all know what Disney and ESPN as a whole is going through, and there's tons of layoffs. Bob Iger's back as CEO, and they're not buying. We said it. They basically feel like they doomed the Pac-12 last week by coming out there publicly and saying they're just not interested. And so they're not in a mood to give more money. They're not in a mood for acquisition. And so I think that's obviously one of the main reasons why the SEC is sitting out here and saying, okay, fine, we'll just stay at 8. Right? It feels like a bit of a public posturing play, almost a game of chicken. To say, okay, you don't want to get, well, we're not going to give you a 9th conference game. Now, I'm fine with playing chicken. But what I get worried about is sometimes when you play those games, the farce becomes real. And through just the machinations of the system, something that was a threat, you end up having to follow through on because you've kind of been backed into a corner. And what's crazy is, boys, it doesn't even take a lot to get this passed. It takes a simple majority. It could be an 8-6 vote. Like, it does not take a lot to get you a 9-game schedule. I just wonder how much hardball are they willing to play with ESPN here. And I guess where it becomes a bit frustrating for me is I'm fine with the posturing, but don't follow through on the threat. Following the example of Mike Sly. Okay, sacrifice some short-term monetary gain for long-term value. And that's exactly what you will get if you move to a 9-game schedule. The 3 permanent opponents is superior to 1 permanent opponent. In both schedules, you will play everybody every 2 years, so that's going to be excellent with that, no matter which way you go. But then at the end of the day, it's just a better product for the fan. And if it's a better product for the fan, that means more buy-in, that means more eyeballs, means more money, and eventually that money comes back, and ESPN does reopen the pocketbook. Or you gain even more value like you did in the Slive era, and then the next TV contract, you get that huge, even more massive number. Do not play such, do not cut off your nose to spite your face, essentially here. Let's get to 9 games, folks. We'll see, though. It's going to be decided this week in Destin, or it'll be pushed off again because they keep loving to do that, or in 2024 when they're redoing everything else. They won't redo this, which would just be so incredibly stupid. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.